New political YouTube channel, Election Forecast 2020. Thank you to everyone who clicked on this video and get ready to hear my predictions for the upcoming 2020 election. First off, I'm using the interactive map on 270 to win, if anyone's wondering, as you can see right there. Before I start this video, I want to clarify that my political beliefs in no way influence the outcome of my predictions. While I am a person who has his own beliefs, for the sake of accuracy, I do not let them interfere in my political forecasts. As of today, we are 96 days away from the US election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. This election is likely to be one of the strangest and most intense elections in American history, with the vehement anti- and pro-Trump forces at play in both parties, along with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. It is likely that this election could be one of the most bitterly fought contests, both before and after the results come in. I personally suspect that no matter what side wins, there will be a degree of questioning as to the legitimacy of this election due to voter suppression on the left and the skepticism of mail-in voting on the right. Quick FYI to anyone watching, voter fraud is not an issue in this country. According to the Brennan Center for Justice, voter fraud incident rates are somewhere between 0.0003% and 0.0025%. It's not a partisan matter. It is simply not factual that this election will be rigged through universal mail-in voting. However, voter suppression is very real on both sides, and it is likely to be exacerbated by the pandemic. Despite these strange circumstances, I still expect this election to have extremely high turnout, possibly somewhere in the 60s. History tells us that high voter turnout generally equates to electoral success for the Democratic Party, as there are more Democrats than Republicans in this country, not to mention the fact that Democratic voters tend to draw from a broader and ever-growing coalition. However, this is certainly a special election, and just because I expect there to be high voter turnout does not mean I expect the Democratic candidate to automatically win. Before I give my prediction, I want to paint a general image of the race. Joe Biden is up by 8 or so points in both the 538 weighted average and the RCP general average. Biden is also up in most swing states, including the absolutely essential 3 states in the Rust Belt: Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. He's also up, as of today, August 1st, in Texas, Florida, North Carolina, and Arizona, according to the 538 weighted averages, and he is down marginally in Ohio, Iowa, and Georgia. The state of the race is lean Democratic at this moment. However, it is important to understand that polls are merely a snapshot in time. They cannot and do not forecast the political climate on November 3rd, which is what matters. Without further ado, here are my predictions. To begin, we're going to start off with the safe states for either party. Of course, the states on the West Coast: Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii. Start with those. Then we're going to go up to the Northeast: Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and DC, the most Democratic area in the entire country, as well as Vermont, New York, Illinois. Am I missing anything? As for New Mexico, this has generally been considered a swing state in the past, but I think with an ever-growing Hispanic population, it is very possible that New Mexico will be a safe state for the Democratic candidate Joe Biden in this election, so I'm going to label it as that. I wish I would have used a different service instead of 270 to win so I could show you likely lean margins, but I guess you'll just have to listen to what I have to say. We're also going to label the 1st District of Maine as safe. Maine at large, I wouldn't say it's safe. I would not say it's safe at this point. And now we are going to label the safe Republican states. Idaho, nope. Montana, I'm not going to label that safe, actually. Wyoming, Utah, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, not their 2nd district. Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia. You may notice that I'm leaving a substantial amount of states empty for right now because I want to talk further about the remainder of the states that will go to Donald Trump but will likely not be in the safe margins. So now we're going to talk about those states, the ones that should be safe Republican but are trending likely at this point. First off, Alaska. Alaska has historically been close in terms of polling, and their polling tends to favor the Democratic Party. But you do see a tightening of the race in Alaska right now, especially with their Senate race between Dan Sullivan, the incumbent, and Al Gross, an independent. I could not label Alaska a safe. It's going to go to Donald Trump. However, the question is by how much. So I would label it a likely state, but we're going to put it under red. As well as Montana, a very interesting Senate race to watch between Steve Bullock, the popular former governor, and Steve Daines, the incumbent freshman Republican. I'll make a video in the near future regarding my predictions as to the Senate elections, but obviously Montana is going to be a Trump state, but I can see it falling within likely margins. Same can go for Mississippi, Missouri, Indiana, South Carolina. Those 4 states, especially Mississippi and South Carolina, I can expect those both to be swing states in the near future. With rapidly diversifying populations, I can expect South Carolina to be a swing state as early as 2028, and for sure by 2032. And Mississippi, I can see that as well. Missouri, Indiana have been historically competitive states, which have moved further into the Republican Party's column. I do expect both these states to go to Donald Trump by substantial margins. However, I do not expect them to be as large of margins as it was in 2016. But for now, I'm going to label them as all Republican states. Am I missing anything? No, I am not. I'm not. So now we're going to move on to the likely Democratic states. Virginia. Virginia is a very interesting state. You know, it was considered a swing state for 3 elections, after being a Republican stronghold for many, many years. But we've seen Virginia ascend or go rapidly leftward. And as of now, I'm comfortable labeling it as likely. Maybe, I wouldn't say safe yet, but in the near future it will be a safe state. I will put Virginia in the same group as Colorado, both states with very, very substantial populations of wealthy, well-educated white voters who have increasingly become dissatisfied with the Republican Party in the wake of its acceptance and its acceptance of Donald Trump. So I will put Colorado likely, possibly even safe margins in Colorado. Cory Gardner, the incumbent in the Senate, is in real trouble in here, and I very much expect that race to go to John Hickenlooper. As well, I will put Minnesota as well in that likely column. It went to Hillary Clinton marginally in 2016, and it is very much so the most progressive of the Rust Belt states, bar Illinois. Minnesota's it's an interesting state, though. It's very progressive, and I think that Minnesota being the epicenter of the whole Black Lives Matter, not the epicenter, but the epicenter of the recent reckoning in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement, I think that will certainly help Democratic candidates in there, and I'm very comfortable labeling it as a Democratic state. As well, I can also... Hillary Clinton won New Hampshire marginally in 2016. But recent polling does not carry good news with it for the Trump campaign in New Hampshire. So it's somewhere in between a likely and a lean. I wish I had ways to label it as such, but I will give it to the Democratic Party as well. As well as Nevada, Trump was leading in the polling, and there was a swing towards Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden is not doing especially well within the Latino community. The Hispanic population, which could hamper him in Nevada, but I think this election has proven to be... it's a little bit early to call, but it's proven to be Joe Biden's race to lose at this point. So I will put Nevada in the lean column, lean Democratic. And now we're on to the real swing states here. Oh, I forgot about Maine at large. Maine at large is going to be likely to safe Democratic. Now we are into the real lean tilt states here. Okay, we should start off with the states that I expect to go to the Democratic Party. Firstly, I really do expect Michigan, especially. Michigan is probably the most likely to go Democratic out of all of these states. Um, Recently, Trump stopped buying ads in Michigan, which was quite telling as to his struggles in the upper Rust Belt recently. And Michigan is certainly the most Democratic out of these states, having two Democratic senators, and Debbie Stabenow and Gary Peters. Gary Peters being up for re-election, which he will most likely win against John James, and also a Democratic governor in Gretchen Whitmer, who has very high approval ratings throughout the whole coronavirus pandemic, which will certainly help her and the Democrats in the state of Michigan. So I'm comfortable labeling Michigan as a lean state in favor of the Democrats. And I think that general characterization rings true across the entire Rust Belt, especially in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is probably the second most likely to go towards Democrats in this election. It is relatively similar demographically to Michigan, with urban centers with a very diverse group of voters, and also rural areas in the western part of the state, which have trended very much rightward recently. However, I believe that the coalition in the cities and the increasing movement of former Republican voters, former Romney, McCain Republicans to the Democratic Party, at least during this election, in the suburbs of Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania, or Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, excuse me, I think that will be enough to push Pennsylvania to the left. And I'm comfortable labeling that as a Democratic state. As you can see, the electoral vote tally is 268 to 125 for the Republican. And it is at this point, it is likely that Joe Biden will win the election. Again, this is just a snapshot in time. It is not my absolute prediction. It is my prediction as of now. But this is very likely that this will not be the exact scenario that will happen on November 3rd. So yeah. We're gonna move on to Wisconsin now. We're gonna go for the upper Rust Belt here. We're gonna figure out what's going on. Wisconsin. Hillary Clinton had a very, very large polling lead in Wisconsin in 2016, and it was the only state to be outside the margin of error, the only state to be completely wrong in its polling. And it went marginally to Donald Trump by less than 1%. And Wisconsin will be much closer than Michigan and Pennsylvania. I can guarantee that. I am very sure that that will be the case. However, Wisconsin elected a Democratic governor in 2018 in a Democratic wave year, and the congressional ballot in 2020, the generic ballot, is very similar to that of 2018. And if we're seeing those same numbers, it is likely that a Democrat will win Wisconsin, especially with Joe Biden's appeal to white voters and these sort of working class Obama to Trump type voters in the upper Rust Belt. I do expect that Joe Biden will carry Wisconsin by a tilt to lean margin, as opposed to a lean to likely for Michigan and a solid lean for Pennsylvania. As for Iowa and Ohio, Trump significantly outperformed his polling averages in the 2016 election in these two states. I believe he was polling ahead by 1 or 2 points on Election Day in Ohio, and he was expected to carry both of these states, but he drastically outperformed that. And while there hasn't been a substantial shift to the left in terms of the general electorate, I do not expect that Donald Trump will lose these states at the end of the day. Though Joe Biden leads in Ohio right now in the polling averages, I think that at the end of the day, Donald Trump will eventually carry Ohio and Iowa. I do believe that. However, in terms of the Senate election, there's a very interesting Senate election going on in Iowa between Theresa Greenfield and Joni Ernst. I can possibly see I can see a scenario in which Donald Trump carries Iowa and Theresa Greenfield ends up unseating Joni Ernst in that seat. It's possible. It's certainly possible. It's also possible for Joe Biden to win both Iowa and Ohio. If he continues at the pace that he's on right now, we could be in store for a landslide election. Obviously, it's too early to say that, but all signs point to Democratic victory on November 3rd. Now we're going to move on to the battleground of the future. Actually, let's label these two congressional districts first. Maine's 2nd District had a huge swing towards Donald Trump in 2016 from being an Obama district in 2012 and 2008. I do not think that Joe Biden has made up enough ground with these white working class voters in Upper Maine to swing the district back to him, so I will give that district to Donald Trump by lean margin. However, I do think that Joe Biden will carry Nebraska's 2nd District, and let me tell you why. While the Republican Party has certainly consolidated support amongst the white working class men in this country, they have pushed away suburbanites, and Nebraska's 2nd District, which is Omaha and its surrounding suburbs, have been increasingly pushed away by the Republican Party, by Donald Trump's tone, and by their policies. So I do expect that Nebraska's 2nd will go to Joe Biden, and I also expect that the congressional election in Nebraska's 2nd will go to the Democrat instead of the incumbent. I think his name's Ken Bacon, something Bacon. Anyways, we'll move on to the battleground of the future, the Sun Belt. This is the fastest growing area in the entire country, with each state here, bar Georgia, I think, poised to gain electoral votes in the 2024 election. This area is... these areas up here in the upper Midwest, I expect to trend rightward with decreasing populations. But, however, I expect these 5 states to be the battlegrounds of the future. First off, let's start with Arizona. Arizona has been rapidly trending leftward, electing a Democratic senator in 2018 in Kyrsten Sinema, and most likely electing another Democratic senator in Mark Kelly. So, I would give Arizona to the Democrats. I think they're going to pull it out with a diversifying population in Arizona, and potentially riding the coattails of a very strong Senate victory here for Mark Kelly over the very unpopular incumbent Martha McSally. Next, we'll go to North Carolina. North Carolina was an Obama state in 2008 and a Romney state in 2012, and I really do believe that North Carolina is the closest thing to a pure toss-up. It can really go to either party. However, based on the polling averages, Joe Biden is leading there. And while polls do not tell us everything, they give us a general image of how the election is going to look on November 3rd. So, I will give North Carolina to Joe Biden by the slimmest of margins. I think that increased minority support in North Carolina will push him over the top, despite the heavy impact of white working class voters in here. Georgia, very interesting state. Georgia has been trending leftward, as well as most of these states have, and it nearly elected a Democratic governor in 2018 in Stacey Abrams. However, I do not think, unless Joe Biden chooses Keisha Lance Bottoms as his running mate, I do not expect that he will consolidate enough support in the urban areas and the suburban areas to overpower rural Georgians. Therefore, I expect Donald Trump to carry the state of Georgia by, let's say, 1 to 3 points, somewhere in that range. It's going to be close, and it will certainly be more competitive in the future, and it is very possible that Joe Biden wins Georgia. However, as of now, I expect Donald Trump to win Georgia. However, in Florida, this has been one of the biggest surprises of the election for me. Joe Biden is absolutely running up the numbers in this state. It is insane to see how well he is doing in Florida right now. He is up by about 6 in the 538 polling average. And while Florida is always, it's a beach ball, it gets tossed around party to party, I don't remember seeing, Hillary Clinton never had this big of a lead in Florida, and neither did Trump, because Trump was leading by November in Florida. And all signs indicate that Joe Biden will be the one to carry Florida, especially with his growing support among seniors, almost completely flipping that entire portion of the electorate. So I do expect Florida to go to Joe Biden. However, it could go to Donald Trump. It can go either way. It's a toss-up. Texas. What has been known historically as Republicans' California, 38 electoral votes that Republicans can always count on. That is changing. That is very much changing. Texas is a very fastly growing and rapidly diversifying state, and those sort of demographic changes tend to favor Democrats, especially with an influx of Mexican immigration in the state. It is certainly possible that Joe Biden carries Texas. However, I'm not quite comfortable enough yet to give Texas to Joe Biden. It's a Republican state at heart, and I think it will remain that way. So I will give Texas to Joe Biden, but that can change. It can very well change. So this is the final electoral map. 334 votes for the Democrat Joe Biden, 204 for the Republican Donald Trump. As of now, it is clear that Joe Biden has an edge. However, it can change, and I'll be sure to update you guys if there are any major polling differences or any major events or scandals. We'll see. We're in for a very interesting next 100 days until the election, and I am, for myself, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see what happens, and yeah, I can't wait to vote, especially. Although my vote doesn't matter. I live in Oregon. It's a safe state, so it will go Democratic no matter what. Okay, that's the video for today. If you like the video, be sure to subscribe for more political content, more political ramblings. Next video, I think I will be doing a Senate prediction, so be sure to tune into that, and thank you all for listening. Bye now.